Hi, it's York, and welcome to another episode of Community Conversations presented by Port Hope Hyundai. This week, I wanted to revisit the 2025 Tucson Plug-in Hybrid with a focus on the peace of mind you get from having a hybrid vehicle. Switching back and forth seamlessly between electric power and gasoline really does give you the best mileage you can get out of a vehicle. And you don't need to worry about your battery running dry while you try to find a place to charge. And you don't need to worry about running out of gas when you're on a long road trip and there's great distances between gas stations. This vehicle takes care of that for you, stretching your mileage out like no other, giving you definite peace of mind when driving. This week, I'm having a conversation with Scott MacCoubrey. Well, Scott, thank you very much for joining me on Community Conversations. We're going to have a talk about your life here in Northumberland County. Let's start with those that don't know Scott MacCoubrey, the Scott MacCoubrey story.
Scott MacCoubrey. Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
The Scott MacCoubrey story, I guess, goes back probably a few generations. My grandfather and my father bought the funeral home from the Bose family in 1961. So I'm a third generation family funeral home. And we've been around a long time. So, you know, our family has decided that we want to be part of the community more than just being a business owner. We want to give back to the community and make this a better community for everybody.
And you certainly do that. And you take a look at Cobourg and Northumberland County in general. There's so many service clubs in the area to choose from to be able to give back. You went with Rotary, past president of the Rotary Club at Cobourg. What was it about Rotary that attracted you to that organization?
Well, initially I was in Kinsman. And Kinsman had a rule that once you got to the age of 40, that you had to transition out of that club and into another club. And my dad was a member of the Cobourg Rotary Club. So when it came time for me to leave the Kinsman Club, it was a natural progression for him to sponsor me into the Cobourg Club. And at that time, there was just the one Rotary Club in the area. Well, Port Hope had one too, but since then there's some other clubs in the area. But I've stuck with Cobourg Rotary 33 years now, I think, this year. And as you said, went through the directors and I became a past president. And Rotary offers you something that a lot of service clubs don't. It certainly offers you a really good opportunity to network with probably the elite. And I don't just mean that as the professionals, but the elite people, the people that really want to make Cobourg a better place.
Right.
And Cobourg Rotary does that for me. There are many opportunities in Cobourg to volunteer, and Cobourg Rotary sort of sang the right tune to me.
33 years is a long time. Things have to stay fresh and evolve. What's evolved with Rotary over the past 33 years in your experience?
Well, it's changed greatly. When I first started Rotary, women were just sort of being introduced to Rotary. It was an all-men's club for all the time prior to that, 100 years before that. And then when women came in, it really changed the dynamics of Rotary and improved the dynamics of Rotary. And now probably a third of the club are women, and they contribute greatly to not only the networking, but the actual projects. They work really hard and raise a lot of money for the community.
Certainly does. That's for sure. No doubt about that. And personally, you've stepped up to help out a number of years ago, I believe 18 years ago, with Cornerstone Family Violence Prevention Center when they had the very first, at that point it was known as Walk a Mile in Her Shoes.
That's right.
Talk to us about Cornerstone and what it is about Cornerstone that makes you want to commit this sort of amount of time to. That's 18 years. You and I were both there on the very first one.
That's right. What fools we are.
Right.
So, yeah, my history goes back to Cornerstone when it was simply the women's shelter. And the women's shelter was on Division Street, and it was very small and inconspicuous. They needed a bigger piece of property, and they came to me. I owned some property. My wife and I owned some property on Swain Street, and they purchased the property from me. And from that moment on, I was interested to see what the women's shelter was all about, what they did for the community, how they helped the vulnerable of this community, and made people feel safe when you couldn't feel safe in your own home. So I fell for it, and I became a member on their board, and we oversaw the first expansion at the shelter, and I'm still with them, and I don't see myself leaving anytime soon.
Have you seen anything change since the time that you've been involved? Are things improving? Are they getting better for women, or is the need just as they're just as much or even more?
Um, the need is unfortunately greater, but what has changed is the exposure to the education of domestic violence, and I think Cornerstone has done a great job in educating all of us on the kind of vulnerable people that they serve and help on a daily basis.
And that is one of the big benefits of Walk a Mile. It's not just raising funds, which are critically important, but it is getting that awareness out there and
Perfect.
getting that
Yeah.
conversation going, right? The conversation is just as important as
That
the money.
that is really important, and that is the biggest change that I've seen in our attitude towards the shelter, or now Cornerstone, is that now it's more accessible as far as um, everybody knows where it is. There's no secrets. It used to be almost, they almost tried to keep it a secret because they were afraid of the violence that could occur. But thank goodness we have a strong police department, and they can rely on them coming in a moment's notice.
Another group that you're involved with is the Colburn Festival of Trees, specifically the memorial tree. That has been up for 16 years now, the Festival of Trees.
16 years?
16 years
Oh.
now, yeah. What it is about that organization, Colburn Festival of Trees, it's helping kids with music, that has had you involved for so long.
You know, I just think it's a fantastic program, and it's something that we can do in Colborne. You know, I have another business in Colborne, and I do want to support the village of Colborne, and this is just an excellent way of saying we care and that we want to continue working in Colborne to make that community a better place.
The memorial tree is very close to me. My wife, Robin, lost her
Yes.
son.
Yes.
He's one of the children that are on the tree. Now this year, 23 children. As a owner of a funeral home, how is that important to families who have lost their children to have something like that available here in Northumberland?
You know, Christmas is a hard time for a lot of us. If you happen to be one of those people that have had a child die prematurely, like Robin, Christmas is even a more difficult time because you can't not help think about your family at Christmas. Christmas just brings family together, and there's somebody not at that table. So it's so important to remember those people and around the tree. When you're a tree at home, you know, when you're decorating that tree at home, you can't not help but start thinking about that person that is not at the table with you at Christmas dinner. So it's so important to remember those people, and it's good therapy for the people that are still with us, that they still love and care for that person that's no longer with us.
President of a funeral home in a small town like Coburg and in Colburn, how do you handle that? And where your friends, you have to deal with their families and help their families get over their loss and your loss at the same time.
Yeah, it can be extremely difficult. And it gets, you know what, it gets harder with age too. I don't think I was nearly this emotional 30, 40 years ago when I first started back with Dad. But for some reason it does, the older you get, the more emotional you get. Maybe it's because more of your friends aren't with us anymore, right? So, I mean, all of that sort of compounds. You do try to separate yourself from the emotion, because you can't do your job properly if you can't separate yourself from the actual grief and emotion that you're feeling. But
Very, very
difficult.
powerful.
It's difficult.
And an opportunity for you to really help those that you really care about, that are a part of your circle.
That's right.
Scott, thank you very much.
Well, thank you
It's
so
been a
much for
pleasure.
having me, York. Thank you.